Hello. So for the problem I didn't understand, I'm going to go over question one, which was the true or false when talking about the feedback control and the feed forward control. So for A, it's true, because to control anything, you need some kind of measurement. So the feedback needs a measurement of the control variable, and the feed forward needs a measurement of the input variable. And then for B, it's false. Because in feed forward, you typically measure a feed flow or a feed temperature or an ambient temperature, not the controlled output, which matches exactly what we just said here. And then for C, it's also false because a perfect model is more relevant to feed forward because feed forward uses a model to predict what adjustment is needed. Feedback reacts to the error and is limited by the measurement, controller timing, and unmeasured distance. For D, it is true because the feedback doesn't need to know the ahead of time. And then for E, it is false because superior is really just subjective and dependent on the entire situation. Feed forward is great when the distance are measurable and models are decent. Feedback is great when things cannot be measured or just are not measurable. And then for problem two that we have here, for part A, we looked over the control variable, the core body temperature, then the sensors, which are the temperature receptors and the skin and core. And then the controller and the response, if the temperature rises above the set point, it goes to sweating plus increases heat loss, which means the temp falls back towards the set point. And then if the temperature drops below the set point, the shivering, which reduces heat loss, which means that the temp will rise. And then in B, it would be the control variable is the blood glucose concentration. And then the sensor would be the cells. The response would be that if the glucose goes high, the insulin is released and cells can take up glucose. And then the liver stores glycogen, which then has the glucose decreases. And then if glucose is low, my gosh, glucan is released, and then the liver releases glucose, and then glucose increases. And so for part A, it just measures Y by manipulating R and B to control Y. No, I'm definitely explaining question three now. Anyways, so for question two, it just stems from those two things. There's body temperature regulated by sweating, which cools, and then blood oxygen level dropping, which causes heart rate to increase, and then the low blood sugar causes the body to slow. And then for question three, it's just the measure of Y by the manipulate of R.